In order to get anything to happen, you have to take a certain amount of risk, and you have to sort of go into an area where you're not sure you're going to be able to pull it off.
What if I told you that this movie would change how we made movies forever?
I don't like sand.
That this movie would be the most important movie made in the 21st century.
To accept us?
Yeah.
Oh, nice!
Star Wars Episode II, Attack of the Clones, would be the very first movie to be shot, edited, and distributed digitally. Which doesn't sound like a crazy thing for 2026, but in 2002 was revolutionary.
There is a lot of controversy about the fact that we're shooting this digitally. As far as I'm concerned, they should have been shooting digital cinema 20 years ago. People say, why am I doing it? I say, the real question is, why not?
In 2002, most films were still shot on film cameras with physical film, as in like celluloid. They didn't even make a thing called a digital cinema camera. In 2002, there were film cameras that shot in 24 frames per second, which was the standard for decades. And then you had digital cameras that were set to 30 frames per second, which was better for television.
There were certain inherent basic issues. Video is shot at 30 frames per second, film is shot at 24 frames per second, and that was a major holdback for us.
George Lucas, the digital visionary himself, convinced Sony, who weren't very eager to make a digital cinema camera. They didn't really think it was going to take off. However, George Lucas would convince them by telling them that he was going to use these cameras to shoot the next Star Wars film. Sony would develop the very first digital camera that would shoot in 24 frames per second and deliver these cameras to Lucasfilm very close to the first day of production.
The biggest difference with these cameras is that they were developed to provide a 24 frame per second frame rate, which is exactly the rate that we've been using for production photography and film.
Which makes it kind of a Hail Mary to use these cameras in the first place. Luckily, the cameras worked, and it saved Lucasfilms and Industrial Light and Magic so much time and effort. When you shot on film, you had to wait for that film to get developed, and then you would have to wait for that film to get digitized, and then you were able to watch what you filmed like a week later. With these new digital cinema cameras, you were able to watch what you filmed the day prior the next day, which made it much easier to know if you needed to do any reshoots.
This is the day shooting. There's no more laboratory, it's now on tape. Sound and picture on the same recording device, sunk automatically for us to put in on the computers. It's all on this one thing.
The prop department, wardrobe, hair, myself, everybody gets to see the dailies, everybody gets to see if anything's wrong, and they get to fix it by the next take. Whereas normally you wait until the next day and then you have to go back and reshoot it.
And this is revolutionary. On its own, Attack of the Clones would be a massive leap forward in filmmaking. But George Lucas would take it a step further. In select theaters, the film would be digitally projected. Instead of giving theaters film reels, he would give them hard drives with the movie on it, which is now obviously a very common thing. This is like how most theaters operate, but in 2002 was very new technology. So if you're wondering who ended up killing film, it was George Lucas. He is the evil mastermind.
George, for want of a better term, was becoming the poster boy of digital cinema, whereas many other, directors were still skeptical, not wanting to leave the comforts and the wonderful nature of film.
I was obsessed. I said, that's what I'm going to do. Who cares about eye lines? I'm going to turn the film industry into a digital industry.
Which is one perspective to have, but another perspective to have is that George Lucas democratized filmmaking. He made it so that you have a phone that shoots 4K 24 frames per second. Instead of fancy film equipment that's very, very expensive, you can now take your phone, go to your backyard, and make a movie. And that's all because of Star Wars Episode II, Attack of the Clones, George Lucas, Lucasfilms, and Industrial Light and Magic, and all the work they did to make that a possibility.